It's not. I lied. But it's still a good game. Rage 2 is an open-world first-person shooter developed by Avalanche Studios and id Software, the same guys who created Doom. It's been 6 years since its release, and it's generated a bit of a cult following, with many people calling it an underrated gem. So you'd think the guys who made Doom would do a stellar job at making what amounts to open-world Doom. Did they succeed? We'll come back to that later. The ultimate praise I can give Rage 2 is the gunplay and the moment-to-moment gameplay loop, which is just as good as Doom, if not better. There are push-forward gameplay mechanics that encourage, reward, and even demand faster-paced, in-your-face, frenetic gameplay, but it's complicated enough to promote skill and strategy. There's a multiplier mechanic where if you keep your kill streak going, it increases the rate at which your overdrive charges. The overdrive is Walker's strongest ability, where all guns do more damage, they gain additional properties, Walker regenerates health and becomes more damage resistant. Feltrite is a blue mineral that enemies drop, which is used for upgrades, and once Walker picks it up, it heals him. However, Walker needs to be relatively close to the Feltrite to pick it up, and it dissipates after a short while, meaning you can't pick it up. I think this was intentional on the developer's part, as it makes the player move closer and push them forward towards the enemy so they can pick up the Feltrite. In a way, picking up Feltrite is Rage 2's version of the glory kills from Doom, as it's a push forward game mechanic which rewards the player with health if they get close to the enemy. Picking up Feltrite does the same, but also provides them with upgrade currency. Guns, there are plenty of them. An assault rifle, a smart rocket launcher which can lock onto enemies, a revolver that sets people on fire, a railgun that can shoot through enemies, and a plasma cannon which amounts to a minigun as you never need to reload it but can overheat. All the weapons listed above are a lot of fun to use and have a multitude of upgrades, however all pale in comparison to the combat shotgun.
I'm trying to talk to you, alright? Go fuck yourself, man. Think you're better than me.
I am better than you.
I don't know how to describe its feel, but the combat shotgun is one of the best feeling guns in all of video games. It's consistent, buttery smooth to use, does a lot of damage, has a lot of ammo, and can be used at point blank and up to a fair distance, as when you aim down the sights, the pellets become a slug round, which provides knockback. The shotgun is your workhorse, the gun you'll be using the most to deal with the most enemies in the game, and this may have been intentional from the developers to reinforce the aggressive gameplay loop. They may have made the gun made for close quarters the most fun and used gun in the game to reinforce the idea that you should be up close and personal when dealing with the barren wasteland. There are multiple abilities known as nanorites, most of which are fun to use and again encourage faster paced, more frenetic gameplay rather than staying in cover. There's the Shatter, which amounts to a force push, the Vortex, which is akin to Zarya's Graviton Surge from Overwatch, and the Slam, which is an AoE attack that Walker punches the ground to use. Also, there are movement-based nanorites which, like Doom, give the player movement options to evade or close the distance between themselves and the enemy. There's the Dash, the ability to increase running speed for a short time, and a double jump to help mantle and climb up to higher locations. Like the Feltrite multiplier and Overdrive, the main purpose is getting in close.
Take one step on that rope and I'll cut it.
All the movement abilities listed above reinforce the gameplay loop and the idea that the player should be aggressive, close the gap, kill at point blank range, collect Feltrite, keep a multiplier high, use overdrive, and repeat. All things considered, it's a well thought out, well developed gameplay loop that rewards and encourages fast paced, aggressive gameplay. So with all that being said, the excellent gameplay loop must complement the open world Rage 2 has to offer, right? One of the main issues with Rage 2's gameplay is that it's incredibly repetitive. There is minimal gameplay variety, and most missions boil down to going to a building or some secret layer and murdering everything that moves and breathes. The main story is 10 hours long and does require a fair amount of grinding to level up the guns, nanorite abilities, and projects which amount to passive perks in gameplay, such as being able to locate chests. The battle arenas are all relatively similar with few gameplay twists. However, the repetition itself is not necessarily a bad thing, as the overall gameplay loop is so fun, fleshed out and frenetic, in your face, and yet strategic enough to warrant strategizing and thinking way out of intense situations. Continuing on with the repetition, all the side missions boil down to going to some weird enemy hideout and killing everything that breathes. There is some variation in the hideouts, as one hideout type, that being the mutant nest, can only be completed once you've killed all the spores, otherwise the enemies will keep on spawning and charging at you. One of the arcs can't be directly accessed as there's no power, so you have to go to two separate locations to turn on a generator so that you can access the arc and the unique nanorite ability. But again, in a way, that's okay, as despite the open world being busy work, it's fun busy work in a way, as it requires you to engage and use the gunplay and abilities which are fun and fleshed out. You may eat the same meal over and over again, but it's a nice meal. There's another big issue of the game. It's so easy. From the very start, you have access to the whole map. There's a minimal sense of progression as you have access to the entire map, meaning you have access to all the bandit camps, weapons, arc abilities, Feltrite meteors, road chokers, convoys, mutant nests, authority turrets, and sentries, and so forth. Since you have access to everything on the map that can make your character stronger, by the time you do the main story, you'd be so over leveled that the main quest enemies practically become training dummies for you, your guns, and your nanorites. Boss fights pose as much of a threat as a wall made of tissue paper. And that's the interesting thing about Rage 2. From an open world gameplay and design perspective, it's at best a 6 out of 10. No sense of pacing, progression is too fast and trivializes the main story, repetitive side missions, minimal gameplay variety, a bland open world with nothing interesting to witness, and minimal variety of battle arenas. However, the core gameplay loop, the nanorites, and the gunplay are so expertly crafted that's on par with the id Software Doom trilogy. In between the bland open world and the repetitive grinding, the shootouts you have with the enemy are so fun, energetic, and frenetic that they keep you entertained until the credits roll. If you're willing to overlook the dry and bland open world, there is a 10 out of 10 gameplay loop with one of the best shotguns in gaming, one that is far better than the Doom Eternal shotgun.
Don't worry, Leela. Soon we'll be able to look back on this and laugh.
In addition, despite how hectic the game gets, there's enough room for strategy and planning your way out of difficult situations. For example, the Firestorm revolver works well against enemies with shields, so you may want to reserve ammo for those enemies. You can use the dash to get in close on faraway enemies, so you can collect Feltright to heal yourself instead of staying in cover and using a stim injector. So overall, is Rage 2 worth your time? I would say yes. The gunplay and gameplay loop are fun and entertaining enough to keep you intrigued until the credits roll. Whilst the open world doesn't do much to entertain the player and is incredibly repetitive, said repetition isn't completely worthless as it makes you use the excellent gunplay and nanorite abilities the game has on offer. So whilst it's no Doom, it's a fun experience and worth picking up so that you can experience Doom but in an open world format. Now, if you excuse me, I've spent some sweet time with that wonderful combat shotgun. This is Zach, not Zach, signing off. Please remember to like, favorite, and subscribe.